Okay, we're going to be doing our Pink Lemonade tier tray set. I apologize if the lighting is really weird. It's 9:30 at night, so I have no natural lighting. I did put a lamp right above my camera to try to help eliminate some of the shadows, but the lighting may not, or the coloring, I should say, may not be completely accurate. Okay, so just like all my other tier trays, the first thing you want to do is lay out your box or your paper on your work surface and then separate your pieces by color. So I have my white pile here with the large wedge. I've got my yellow pile here with a half wedge, and then over off to the camera, you can't see it, is my pink pile with another small wedge. And I am going to start painting from my light on over. The yellow and pink are kind of similar. The reason I'm going to start with white is because we're going to be using our detail brush to paint these, and it's easier to cover like your white paint if you happen to spill over, versus if we spill the pink over, then it makes it harder to cover with the white. Okay, so let me grab, here we go. Sorry, doing something off camera. Okay, let's start with this, Squeeze the Day. Another thing I should mention is you want a little cup of water. I have an old pill bottle, so that you can rinse off your detail brush. And oh, here it is. I was gonna say, where did I put my napkin so that I can dry off my brush after? So I'm gonna set that to the side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint white and pink. So you can do whatever color you want, but that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use my detail brush, and I'm just going to get close to that shiplap line, just like this, and then I'm going to smooth it over. So basically line it out and then brush in one direction. I'm gonna set this down, it makes it easier. So as you can see, I mainly, once I first dip my brush, I don't immediately go right next to the line. That will make it harder to stay in the lines, because then you're going to have a big glob of paint, and that will make it harder not to spill into the shiplap. And then I'm going to smooth, and at the end, or like when you're painting, I always like to paint in one direction. It just makes it look a lot more professionally done. It's a lot smoother. If you happen to get paint in your shiplap line, just take your toothpick and drag it along. It works best if you do it while the paint is wet. Oops, I didn't have any paint, but just so you can see that. Instead, I just flipped the char from the lines out. Okay. So you see why we do the white, because then if I accidentally mess up, it will be easier to cover. And then when I do the pink, I'll try to be a little more careful. And this is just the first coat. I'll do a second coat after. I'm just gonna finish this line, and then we'll hurry and do an overview of our wedge work in case you need a refresher. Okay, as you can see, I did get some paint in that line. So all I'm gonna do while it's still wet is put my toothpick in, and now it's completely gone, which is so nice. Okay, I'll set that aside. Obviously, I would paint that one, let this completely dry, possibly do a light sanding if it feels rough, and then do one more coat. So let's go with our wedge work. I'm going to start with this piece because what I'm going to do is I want it to look like there's lemonade. So I'm actually only going to go about halfway down with my white color on this piece. So you dip your wedge in, sorry, I almost forgot, just in case you're a newbie, you dip your wedge in, dab up and down on your box or your work surface, and then just lightly dab up and down on your piece. You're going to want to do 2 light coats of paint, sometimes more if you need more coverage. Don't try to cover it all in one go, otherwise you're going to get sloppy, goopy mess. Okay, that's about all I'm going to do on this piece because, like I said, I'm going to come back over with the pink, and I don't need to go up here because this piece is going to cover that, so there's no point. So I'm going to set that aside until I do the next coat. Now, same thing with this picture. I am planning on this part of the lemonade is going to cover most of it, and then these pieces are going to fill in. So I'm just going to go about halfway down and then pretty much just stick around the edges. You can cover the whole thing if you want. That's no problem. I just don't see the point if it's just going to get covered. So I'm going to go, I want to make sure that every piece that's showing is covered. So I'm just going to go halfway, even though I know it doesn't need it this much. And the handle. And then I'm going to go about just a good half wedge around the edge. You can always check if you need to, and that shows that it will be covered. So I'm going to set that aside till I do the second coat. Now for this piece, I am going to paint my lemonade wording yellow. So I'm just going to go ahead, and once I get to that piece, I'm just going to lightly use the edge and paint, and skip the lettering. So I'm just using the edge of my wedge, and it's okay. I'm not going super slow and careful like I will once I paint it yellow, because then I don't want to have to go back and repaint it white. So I'll be a lot more careful. And then I was not careful. Oh wait, I don't have to be careful on that because this piece will cover that. So that's just an etching. You don't have to be careful. I was going to have to drag my toothpick through it. Okay, set that into my second pile. And then with these little pieces, that's what these tweezers are for. I ask that you just keep them month to month because they're good forever. Of course, if you lose them or happen to break them, you can always request another. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish painting all of my pieces white, and then I'll come back when it's time for the next color. Okay, so I finished painting 2 coats of, I did the pitcher, the lemonade stand, the shiplap pucker background. I just did a little bit of the fresh jar, and I'm going to put this in the pink pile now. And I did these stripes, and I also put this in the pink pile, the outer part of this jar, and I put that in the yellow pile, and then the lemon outline the jar, and then these ice cubes. So the ones that are completely done, I always just set off to the side so I know not to worry about them. They're done. And then as soon as I had finished painting the stripes, I just plopped my brush in the water, and I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So let's do yellow next. So let's get out our detail brush, and then just get your napkin or your paper towel. And it doesn't have to be perfectly dry. It doesn't really matter. So I just don't want it to be sopping wet to get into the yellow. And then for this straw, You don't have to do this, but I think it looks really cute to do like pink and yellow stripes, just to kind of give off that pink lemonade vibe. So I'm just going to carefully paint into these stripes. Getting a little bit too much paint on this, but that's okay. Trying to get as little as possible so it doesn't just spill over. You can also, if it's easier, use a marker. I actually prefer using paint pens for this, for these little areas, but just in case, I want to show you how you can do it with this detail brush. Okay, so normally I would let that dry and then just do the second coat and then put this in the water, but I'm just going to set it aside for now so that we can go over really quickly some of these pieces. I'm just going to do, I'm not going to do them all on camera because it's redundant. So I'll do this lemon so I can show you, there's my half wedge. So what I'm going to do is dip into the yellow paint and then dab up and down a lot, because you want very little on this wedge so that you're not flooding in these slice lines, and then just very gently dab up and down. If you do a very light coat and you're not slamming it down so that paint is flooding in, then you shouldn't have to use the toothpick to drag any paint out. So as you can see, nothing got into the lines. So that's obviously just one coat, so I'll need to do a second one. But same thing with this little yellow half wedge, the half lemon wedge, I should say. Same thing. No paint got in as long as you do just a little bit. Okay, let's do this little lemonade wording. So now that I've already painted around the side, because as you can see, I did get some white on the lettering, but I wasn't worried because white covers up extremely well. But since I don't want to have to go back and fix the white, I'm just going to be a little bit more exact and careful once I get to these edges. Put my head closer. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, I'm still going to need to do 2 coats. So I'm going to go ahead and finish all these yellow pieces, and then I'll push play again when it's time to do the pink. Okay, so I just finished up the yellow. I did the lemonade on this jar, so now this jar is done. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. The letters for squeeze, set those aside. Part of my straw, so I'm going to put that in the pink pile. Both lemon wedges, the word day, the lemon width up, the backer of the lemon piece for the shiplap circle. My banner pieces are all yellow, and then both of these lemon pieces with 25 cents. So as you can see, I was not careful at all with the bigger lemon because I knew I was going to be putting a cutout on top of that. However, on this piece, there is no cutout because that's a really small piece that would be easy to break. So I was just really careful to not get any paint in the etching on that one. Let's go to our last color. You get using the detail brush, which I have mine sitting in water still, for these and this piece. So I'm just going to show you, I mean, I guess you probably pretty much know I've showed you the technique for everything. So you know what, let's do this fresh. So what I want to do, I'm gonna show you this piece. I'm gonna do kind of like a wavy, oh, sorry, I was totally off camera. I'm gonna do kind of like a wavy, so it looks almost like it's half full of pink lemonade. You can always, if you wanted it a specific, like if you want it above or below, you could lightly in pencil draw. I'm really not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna see how I went about halfway down, and I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it. I'm not gonna worry too much because it's going to be covered mostly. So I'm going to just, and if you really wanted it like a specific wave, you could use your detail brush. You're gonna have a lot more control with that than you will with the wedges. So I would normally wait for it to be completely dry, but I'm just gonna show you. And then I would put this over and see how, like I said, it really doesn't matter if it's not exact because you can't see it underneath the lemonade anyway. So that is what I'm going to do. I just want it to kind of maybe peek up a little bit though. And let's see. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I'm gonna set that aside so that I can do a second coat. And then on this piece, this is just etched as well. It is not, there's no piece to put over it. So I'm just going to make sure that I dab most of it off because there's not a lot of room for error. And then I'm just going to very, very lightly dab over these pieces. And as you can see, there's nothing that gets in the edge when you're just lightly going. And so I'm just going to finish up painting everything pink. I will use my brush for these two pieces, my wedge for the rest, and then I will come back when it's time to put everything together. Okay, I'm just gonna show you how to do a couple more details that are just gonna add a little bit more fun to your piece. I'm just gonna take my toothpick and I'm going to dip it into the white paint, and then I'm just going to do like a little shine, like a swipe on each of these hearts for the banner, just so that it kind of gives it a little more detail and depth. And then, I mean, you can even do it on these letters if you wanted to. Oops. Hopefully I am actually on camera. I wasn't even paying attention. Just usually do like a swipe and a dot just to add a little bit extra. And then I just use my finger to wipe it off, or you can use a paper towel. And then on the actual banner pieces, I'm going to dip it in yellow and then just add some polka dots. And that's just gonna add a little bit of extra fun. You can always wait until all of your pieces are put together before you do these extra pieces or extra detail, just to see how it all looks put together before you add some. I just know I would forget. Okay, now let's put our pieces together. So I'm gonna swipe those a little bit to the side till they dry completely. Let's go ahead with our squeeze of the day. Shiplap circle. If you ordered a kit last month, you got to see how exciting using the adhesive is. It is so much easier than super glue. I put out a survey. I would appreciate everybody taking that if you haven't yet. So far, every single person has said they prefer the adhesive over the super glue. So I stuck with that this month. So you get your tweezers or your fingernail, slide it under, and then use the edge to line your pieces up. And then I'm just going to line this up with the edge of the shiplap circle. And press down. I should have put everything in order before I press record. That's what I usually do. I usually get all my pieces together, but I must have been excited. And then I don't think I will record all of the pieces because it's all pretty standard. And I don't think anyone will care to see all of it, but I'm going to show you a couple pieces because there's a couple things I wanted to say about them. I'm probably going to go over these letters and just add a little bit more detail once I have everything put together. So you can just kind of basically follow from the picture. You can either look at the printout, or if the printout isn't very good because I don't have a very good printer, I would just pull up the picture on Facebook and then you can see more detail that way. Okay, what I wanted to show you was, let's do the jar, because there are a few pieces that are going to be kind of like this. So first let's put on the outline. And then I just like pick it up. Oh my gosh, that one's really sticky. And make sure that the edges all line up. Okay, so what I wanted to show you was, as you can tell, when you peel off all the adhesive backing, obviously sometimes like on pieces like this whole thing is going to be sticky. So there are a couple things you can do. You can either put some construction paper down on this end and then just use like an X-Acto blade to go around it so the back is covered. Or what you could do, sis, will you hand me that X-Acto blade right there? Yes, that, thank you. Yeah. Before you peel off the adhesive, you can kind of put down like where you want it to go, which is right there. And then I'm going to use this blade to slice where can you see that? And then I'm only going to tear off that piece. So this adhesive will stay on the back. So like I say, you can do the same technique. You can peel the whole thing off, lay some construction paper or even just a piece of paper, it doesn't matter, and then use the X-Acto blade to trace around the straw. That way the backing is covered. If the sticky back doesn't bother you, then don't even worry about it. But if you're planning on like storing this at all and you don't want the sticky side to get on anything, then that's an option. So the same thing will happen. That That's why you clean off your workspace. See, I don't do this so that you can see me drop all my freshly painted pieces into wet paints. So you know what not to do. Okay, these, you're just gonna lay out these cute little banners as if there was a string connecting them, but there is no string. So the same thing is going to happen with both this freshly squeezed sign and this little lemon. So with the lemon, you can either, let's go ahead and, oops, let's put this like so. And cut each piece, and I didn't go all the way across, so I'm just gonna rip off where I want that to. So now I just have to make sure that I am careful. And this one, I'm gonna line up with the top of my piece, and then I'm gonna watch and center it. And then I'm going to just, and again, like I said, if the sticky piece, and honestly on this piece, it might not matter because nothing should really go in there and get on there. So it really might not matter, and you don't have to do this. I just wanted to show you if it was like a concern of yours, that there is a way to combat that. So now I just have to make sure that when I put it on, I am matching it up with where the sticky side is. Press that down. And then with this 25 cents, sorry, I don't even know if I was on camera right there. I didn't like how that went at all, so I'm gonna have to recut that. And then we'll do our banner. Oh my gosh. If you happen to be watching, you were the lucky recipient of my dog laying down and farting. And we are all 12 and think that it's hilarious. I like to lay these out before I actually set them down so that I can kind of make it seem like it's even. It was Macy, in case any of you were wondering. Charlie's too perfect. He's an angel on earth. Okay, so I'm gonna recut this because I did not like how I positioned that the first time. But anyways, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish putting these together. If you have any questions, then please reach out, and I'm more than happy to give you more details.